What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Athlete's Mindset. We got a special guest, NFL pick who played at the highest level, even won a Super Bowl, and lived out a dream that most athletes still chase today. Joining us today is Sylvester Sly Williams. Welcome to the show.
What's up, man? I appreciate you having me, man. I really
Yeah, I
do.
appreciate you for joining, man. Just how's life been the last couple of months? How's the new year been?
Man, it's been a good year, man. Actually, got some great things going on this year. Really just trying to continue the legacy, man, and to make my family proud.
Yes, sir. Now, I know you grew up in St. Louis under some tough family circumstances, including like parent struggles with addiction. And how did those early challenges shape your drive and, your circumstances?
I mean, I think the most important thing for me is like, I think everything that I've been through is kind of, what was this as a design path to get me to where I'm at today. Growing up, my father was a very tough love individual, right? And at the time when I was a kid, I hated it, right? And thought it was too hard on me. But I realized, as I got older, the reasons why, especially when I became a father. And, my mother, she was out of my life pretty much the entire time due to, drug abuse and also the street life. And, that's the path that she chose. My father stayed and raised us 4 kids by himself. And so it created some issues, mainly academically, right? Because I didn't have that traditional go to school, come home, you got a parent at home, hey, do your homework, hey, this is what you're going to eat. So for me, it was like I get home from school, which is me, my brother, and my sister, and we kind of just, did what we wanted to do. And my father would get up, work around 1 or 2 in the morning. Sometimes he would wake us up to do schoolwork, but for the most part is we would get up the next day and go to school whenever we woke up, and I ended up being held back in the first grade. They said it was due to reading and continued on. And then when I got in the 8th grade, I started getting into fights and got into a fight at school and ended up getting suspended. And when I came back off suspension, I got into a fight with the same guy again. They kicked me out of school.
Oh, wow.
And so once that happened, I ended up moving to Jefferson City, Missouri, which is about 2 hours away from where I was raised at the time, my older sister. And things kind of got back on the right track. I started, being able to go to school more. She was there when we got out of school, so she would help us with our homework, cook for us and things like that. And that situation started to turn sour. So I got a full-time job, started to work full-time, and then I got kicked out again as a sophomore. And once I got kicked out as a sophomore, by that time my father was back in the picture. And I started to, think about my future and life that I wanted for myself and really, started to put a plan together. And one of those plans was for me to go back to the school, the same school that kicked me out. Because when they kicked me out, they gave me 2 options: to go to a GED school, a GED program, or alternative school. And I chose to go back to the school that kicked me out, and that's what I did my junior year. Got back on the right track, man. The things started to look up. I started to go to school more and really focus heavily on, just academics in general instead of working. And toward the end of the school year, I ran into a football coach, and that's really what changed my life, running into that football coach.
That's amazing. Now, looking back at your childhood, what lessons do you teach your children now?
I think the biggest thing I teach my kids, man, is hard work and respect. I think those two things can carry you far in life. Now, obviously, you need more things inside your toolbox to succeed at a high level. But, I teach, especially my oldest son, he's 12, so he understands the most. I tell him all the time, listen, man, be respectful and just give it everything you got. Like every situation that you go into, whether it be school, whether it be work, if you just work hard and you know that you're doing your absolute best and you be respectful along the way, then people will help you in areas of need, and it helped him tremendously because my oldest son actually lived with me full time now. I was awarded custody of him about 2 years ago. And when I got him, he was very far behind academically. In fact, he was on the second grade level. He was in the 5th grade. He was going into the 6th grade. He was on the second grade level.
Oh, wow.
And so he struggled academically. I just told him, like, listen, man, all you got to do is work hard. Work hard, ask as many questions as you can, and be respectful along the way. And he's finally closing that gap little by little.
I love that. I love to hear that. Now, I know you talked about your job a little bit back when you got kicked out of school. So I heard you was working on like radiator parts, like back before you went to
Hmm.
UNC. How
Yeah,
did that?
so I played football my senior year, which is the only year I had ever played.
Okay.
And wasn't that good of a player because I didn't understand the game. But after I graduated high school, I got a job at a radiator factory.
Okay.
And I worked and where I'm from, success is graduate high school, get a factory job, take care of your family. That's what success is where I'm from. And so for me, I thought I was following that path because that's what my father essentially did. And my cousins and everybody around me, they were like, okay, graduate, get a nice job at a factory. So I did that. And man, I was there for about 6 months. And, I made a decision that this wasn't what I wanted to do for the next 40 years of my life. And that's when I came up with a crazy idea, like, no, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna go to college at that, which I had never succeeded in school. But again, I always knew that I was a really hard worker. And getting out of high school for me was a really tough challenge. And I just thought to myself, man, what if I apply the same work ethic, the same lessons that I learned to get out of high school? What if I applied that to something else in life and actually try to go to college? At the time, it had nothing to do with football. Like
Yeah.
football came about because I had a mentor that said, hey, you need to play ball to be able to pay for college so you don't leave school with all of this debt. And so that's how I ended up at Coffeyville Community College before I went to North Carolina.
And now when you transition to North Carolina, you earn all ACC, all American honors. What was it like transferring from that JUCO, like walk on, to starting in the ACC, and how did that prepare you for the pros?
I mean, I think so. When I got to JUCO, one of the things I realized was because I didn't know anything about the community college JUCO because I wasn't a big football watcher, right? I was more so watching basketball. So once I got to college, I started to realize what junior college was and the opportunities that I had. So when I got there, man, it was loaded with talent. Guys that had been Division I kickbacks, guys that was committed to Division I school that didn't have the grades. And so once I got there, I'm like, man, if I just work hard, I can really do something with my life. And so I just started to work out 3 times a day, every day, morning, afternoon, and every night. And I also started to study the game. And so after my first year in the junior college level, I started to get all these offers from like pretty much everywhere in the country. And I'm like shocked because I didn't know the difference between Big 12, SEC. I didn't know the difference at the time. So it was like I started getting all these offers and it was like, man, and I went to North Carolina, fell in love with the university, fell in love with the coaching staff at the time and made a decision to go there. And the transition for me it was an easy transition because I realized the opportunity that was ahead at that point. And so I'm like, man, if I just take care of business, like I can really change my entire family's life. And that was my focus. So when I got to Carolina, obviously the competition was, obviously better, and guys was projected to go in the draft. And we had guys that recently went to the draft. And so for me, it was like, how do I put my name in the hat? I mean, that's just through working hard, going to class every day and separating myself from my competition.
Yeah. Have you been back to UNC?
Oh yeah, I go back all the time. I go back probably. Well, I haven't been back to like a football game in a few years, but I used to go back every year, but I still go back and check on the guys and try to make some connections while I'm out there.
So now transitioning to the pros, you were selected 28th overall. I know you didn't attend draft night, but how did that moment feel being a first round pick?
Oh man, you talking about so man, I actually went to New York. When I went to New York, I was out there and I, was going through the process, preparing for draft night. And my father couldn't make it out because he had some health issues. I'm really close. I was really close to my father at the time. And I wanted him to be there for that moment. He couldn't make it, due to health issues. And so I made a decision on draft day to fly back home. So draft day, I flew back home. Last minute, I put together a big old draft party. And man, we was in the hotel room and they just started calling out the picks, man. And I remember, when my phone rang because you get the phone call before it announced it on TV.
Yeah.
And so I got a call and it was the Broncos, man. And you talk about it was just an out-of-body experience, man. I flashed back on the life that I had lived up to that point, everything I had been through, and I just, just kept saying, man, wow, this is amazing. I'm a first-round draft pick in the NFL. It was crazy, man.
Were you wanting to go to like any specific team, or you were just, fine just being first round, a team picking you?
Well, I wanted to go back home. At the time, the Rams were still in St. Louis, so I really wanted to be in St. Louis. But other than that, though, man, I was just happy for the opportunity.
And so you played a long career, I think 8 seasons, right?
Yeah.
Teams like Broncos and others. What was one game or moment that stood out to you or was a highlight of your career?
Oh, man, I would say the highlight of my career was obviously winning the Super Bowl and being able – because, see, I tell people I've actually been to 2 Super Bowls, right? I went to one my rookie year versus the Seattle Seahawks, and they beat the brakes off of us. Yeah. And, just having that moment of just being like, being let down because it wasn't even a competitive game. And so just having that letdown and just being like, man, like I thought I was gonna be a Super Bowl champion as a rookie, and it didn't happen. Fast forward 2 years later, we back in that position again. We get a new head coach, get some new great players, and here we are back in the same position. And just winning that Super Bowl and being able to literally bring my family out of the stands down onto the field and see the excitement on their faces, right? When I talk about changing my generations, like some of my family had never even been on a plane. Like my mama was able to come to the Super Bowl, right?
Wow.
My aunt, my brother, my sister, my best friends, my mentor. Like I had so many great family and friends to share that moment with. Like to me, the game in itself was amazing. But what really made it special for me was being able to do it with my family there.
Nice. Now, I know back when I was a kid, I did root for the Seattle Seahawks that one year. I did. I had to, I think everybody was just Legion of Boom. And, as a kid, that was amazing to watch. But as a Super Bowl, as a rookie, I know that must have felt like, definitely surreal to you and definitely a lot of hopes of winning. But I'm glad you did get that one, 2015, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you celebrate?
Oh man. So what's crazy is the Super Bowl, it was in Cali. So man, you talking about we had the game by the time we get back to the hotel. And so remember, we stay in one hotel and our family is like in other hotels around the area. So you talk about going from here to 1 mile down the road took an hour. So we had like a little party at the hotel, and my mama was there. My mama was got a chance to meet Elway and his wife and Coobs and his wife. And so we celebrated back at the hotel, man. And then when we went back to Denver, man, we had a really big party back in Denver. Man, I say, man, we party for every day, literally for a week straight. Then we went to Vegas, which obviously was an amazing opportunity for us. Is the whole D line went to Vegas, and man, probably for like a month straight, man, we celebrated.
Oh man, yeah, I'm already knowing that's fun. Now, after the NFL, I know you transitioned to more of an entrepreneurship role in your life. How has that shift been, and what's been the championship mentality in that role?
Well, I think for me, once my career started to come to an end, I thought about, again, I always talk about having that mentality of, because the thing about me is like what I've been through in my life, right? When you talk about kicked out of school, held back, only having one parent, it being my father, right? My mother not being in my life, not really understanding what love felt like, all these issues that I had been through in my life. Once I got to the point to where I started overachieving and reaching goals, that made me feel like I could do anything in life, right? And that's why I always tell people, it's like nothing in life is unachievable, right? It's just you got to have the right mindset and belief in self. So for me, I always say, you know what, I want to chase greatness forever. Until they close the casket, I want to do everything I can to chase greatness and really to leave an impact on not only my kids, but everybody that support me. So toward the end of my career, and I knew it was coming to an end, I started to say, okay, how do I recreate another legacy, right? How do I continue this legacy, right? How do I transition from being at the height of my career in the NFL, because I've reached the pinnacle of success in that career, right?
Yeah.
And then making it to the NFL and then going to a Super Bowl, right? It's only a handful of us that could say that. And so being in that position is like, how do I leverage all this experience into my next chapter of life? And so the first thing I did was I got into business, I got into real estate, got in the medical space, right? I built a successful medical company, which I sold about 2 years ago. Built the real estate portfolio, now 50 doors, or we own 50 units, and continuing that success. And then, so as I started to build companies and I got into speaking and different things like that, I said, you know what? I started to lean a lot on what I learned throughout the NFL, right? And
Yeah.
some key traits that helped me be successful in pro ball in that career, because it's the business at the end of the day, right? And so even in my consulting company, I talk about how do we reach that championship level of success in business, right? And in life as well, right? Because if my work life is messed up, my home life messed up. So how do I combine the two and create something legendary? And that's how I came up with Champ Group Consulting. And man, it's been an amazing experience, and just really talking about my experience in the NFL, my life experiences, but more so just like we got to win at a high level, and it take a great team to do so. And you got to have a team of people that believe. You got to have a team of people that understand what the ultimate goal is, and that's what I focus on.
How did you get into the medical space?
Oh man, so it's crazy, man. I was back home in my hometown looking at a real estate. It was a commercial building at the time, and I walked into the building, and there was this guy who was showing me the building. He was selling it, and I saw this futuristic lab in there, man. I'm like, man, what is that? And he was telling me about it. He said, well, that's a diagnostic laboratory. And he said, actually, the guy that owned that lab, he just walked away. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. And he said, man, you should really consider getting into the business. So I started doing a bunch of research on it and just trying to find ways to, see if I can make it work. And came up with a business plan, came up with an idea, and I went all in. And that's kind of how it happened.
So you talk about the 5 pillars of a championship mindset. Can you break them down for my listeners and share how someone can start applying them today?
And so I always talk about having a champ mindset, right? And that's commitment, honesty, accountability, mindset, and persistence. And I always say this, man, if you think about commitment, right, it's like throughout my whole life, and I've accomplished a lot in life, right? Everything I've ever wanted in life, I've been able to accomplish it. And it all started with just having that commitment. And that commitment, it starts with not wavering, because you understand, commitment is hard, especially on the days you don't feel like it. All the growth I've ever made in life has came on days I didn't feel like it, or when something in my life didn't go the way it was planned to go, right? When you talk about my marriage right now, right? I was in a relationship that didn't go the way I planned for it to go, right? And it seemed like all of my dreams that I wanted family-wise wasn't gonna happen. But I just stayed committed. When you talk about business, when you had the ups and downs, right? When you stay committed through the moments you don't feel like it's when the true growth happens, right? And so for me, I just make that commitment to whatever it is I want to do, right? I said I wanted to be a multi-million-dollar real estate investor. I stayed committed, even the days where it didn't seem feasible. I stayed committed. And then honesty, right? Which is I think something that we all struggle with, right? And let's just be honest with ourselves, understanding that, hey, I struggle in these areas. And when you look back at my childhood and even going to college, when I first went to college, I had zero academic knowledge from K through 12. When you talk about the basic things that you learn, I didn't really have those in my toolbox because either I wasn't paying attention or I wasn't at school to learn those things. And so by the time it came time for me to graduate, I had to fast track everything and cram everything up to be able to get out of school with my class. And so when I got to college, I had to literally go sit down with my professors, find a tutor, and be honest about where I was at in life. Like, listen, I want to succeed in college, but I don't have the necessary tools to succeed. So I'm here to ask for help. And man, through the grace of God, man, every professor I had was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna have grace, but you gotta do the work. And I said, I will do the work. So man, I was going before class, going after class. I had a study hall, a tutor for study hall every single night. And I went through these processes, but it all started me being honest, right? And
Yeah.
even when you talk about, coming to a point in life where it's like, I want to be married, I want to have a family, I want to do all these amazing things where I lack certain things. So I grew up without a mom. So I never understood how to be loved or what true love actually was. And so when I started to say, you know what, let me start to be more open and honest about how I really feel. My mom passed away before I was able to have an honest conversation with her about how I felt and really get the answer that I needed to get. Right. And so for me, I had to start to open up and be vulnerable and be honest with people to be able to get the help and the results that I needed to be who I am today. And and then accountability to me is the most important pillar because every person that I've ever ran into in life struggled with one thing, and that's accountability, because accountability is hard, because accountability could sometimes make you look like less than who you want to perceive to be, right? And so you talk about being accountable. So I understand what I did wrong. Okay, now how do I fix it? It's one of the things that we all struggle with. And for me, it's like when I started to be accountable and I started to look myself in the mirror and I started to be open and help people understand that, like, listen, I may have made a mistake, but I'm committed to fixing it, right? I got 3 kids and all of my kids got different moms, right? So when you talk about, instead of pointing the finger and saying, you know what, this is the reason why I can't be in your life. This is the reason why I can't be in life. You know what I decided to do? I decided to wake up, take accountability for what I did wrong, and understand that, listen, I made a mistake, but I can right my wrong and correct this mistake by showing up for my kids even when I don't feel like it. And when I did that, when I went into courtrooms and I fought for my kids and I did all these things, she started to turn in my favor. Because I'm not going to the point to blaming nobody else. I always say this, man, everything in your life that happens, you have a role in that happening, right? Now, I'm not talking about you being 5 years old, your mom or dad right now, but we can't be 21, 22, 25, 30, still blaming our parents for the reason why we're not successful, right? We can't still be blaming, well, this happened to me when I was 17 years old. Yeah, but you're 35 now. So we got to be accountable for the reason why our life is where it's at right now. Whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, parenthood, whatever it is you are the reason why you are where you are currently at. And when I started to look at things that way, I started to be able to correct and fix everything that need to be fixed and be able to live this life that I'm living now, right?
Yeah.
And my mindset is belief in self, right? The number one person, and I always say this, you only need one person to believe in you, and that's you. I don't care if I line 1,000 people up and I say, do you believe in me? Do you believe in this idea that I got? And everybody say no. If you could look yourself in the mirror and say, Sylvester, I believe in the idea that you got, you can make it successful. But you got to have that mindset and you got to believe that it's going to happen. Like when I got to college and I saw everything that was around me and I saw the opportunities I had, I believed that I was going to make it to the Division I level, right? We talking about steps. I believed I was going to get to a Division I. I had the mindset and I worked every single day to come. Then I got there. Once I got to Division I, and I said, you know what? I believe that I could be an NFL player. So I started working for that every single day. And I had guys around me that believed they could be an NFL player, but wasn't putting the work in. I had guys that didn't believe, man, I can't make it to the NFL. And so belief in self, and understand I was never the most talented. In anything I've ever done, I've never been the most talented, the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, or the smartest. And yet I've dominated multiple industries, right? It's because I believe in myself. And when I believe in myself, I'm willing to put the work behind that belief to be able to make it happen. And persistence to me is the goal. Just don't give up.
Yeah.
I always say, man, if you set a goal, and I don't care what that goal is, you might say, you know what, I want to have the biggest athlete mindset podcast of all time, right? I want to be the leader in this industry, right?
Yeah.
And you say, okay, right now this is where I'm at. And my goal is to get here, right? What's in between? In between is the work. In between is the days you wake up and you only get 5 viewers, right? The days you thought you dropped a dope episode and don't nobody watch it, right? The days you, man, this is the one right here and it don't work out, but you keep going. Success is guaranteed as long as you continue to put the work in. There is no such thing as setting a goal and not reaching it. But it's just, you got to understand that there's steps to get there, and it ain't gonna happen overnight.
Yeah.
It might not happen in 1 year, but day after day after day, if you just stack days, it's guaranteed to happen. And that's what I tell everybody. Whatever it is you want in life, put the work in, and I promise you it'll happen. And I always say, and if it don't happen, you come back and you tell me, hey, Sly, it didn't happen. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm a living example of what persistence and belief in self look like. A living example, because I've done it over and over and over again in my life.
Yeah, I love that. I think I've seen another one of your videos, and I don't want to get it wrong. You said everybody wants the results, but few are willing to climb when it's uncomfortable. What is the biggest mindset shift that you help people make through your speaking and coaching?
I mean, to me, I always tell people see the bigger picture, right? And you just brought up one of my posts. And I run across so many people in life. Oh man, I want this. Oh man, I want that. I got family members, right, that say, man, I got this really good idea. I really want to accomplish this, right? And you know what? I give them all the advice in the world, but what I do is I just sit back and watch.
Yeah.
And I watch how you operate. Because you said that I didn't tell you that this is what you wanted. I didn't say, hey, start a podcast and hey, do these great things. You said that's what you wanted, right? Yeah. So then I just watch how you operate every single day to be able to accomplish the goal that you said that you wanted for yourself. And I could watch people, the midst that people get far and give up, get far and give up. I know you've seen the thing where they had the guy and he was chopping, right?
Yeah.
And it was 2 pitches, right? One above, one below. And the guy was chopping. And one guy was further behind, but he just kept chopping. The other guy, he was right there, but before he got to the diamond, he just stopped. He gave up. And the other guy just chopping. He reached it. But the other guy, he only had that much more to go, maybe 3 or 4 more chops, and he gave up.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people. Like, listen, you can't. Everything that I tell people and that I live and I preach, I didn't read it in the book or see it on the podcast on YouTube. I live this in real life. So if you can't listen to what I'm telling you and apply it, then motivation or it's the discipline, it's the mindset. You don't believe in yourself, right? Because I've seen people, I got cousins, I got family members that literally has said, you know what, Sylvester, I've seen you do all these amazing things. Let me just try to do the same thing. And now guess what? My sister was a high school dropout. My brother was a high school dropout. My sister owned her own medical company right now. I mean, she's on her own healthcare company right now. My brother was a high school dropout. And both of them saw what I did, went back to school, finished school, owned their own company. My brother owned 2 companies. Just bought himself a 3,500 square foot house for him and his family. I got a cousin that's like my younger brother. He owned 10 rental properties. You know, all these people around me that's doing these amazing things because they see what it looks like, right? And so I always tell people, man, listen, we got to normalize, stop blaming other people. That's one of the biggest things I preach. Don't blame other people. Being I can go my whole life. Let's just say if I never go to college and I stay at that factory, number one, I'm wasting talent, right? Number 2, I got a built-in excuse. Well, my mom wasn't there. I didn't have a mom, so I didn't succeed in school because my mom wasn't there. And I could literally take that excuse to my grave. And there are certain people that will listen to this and say, man, that's crazy. She didn't do that, right? And that's why for me, I don't listen to excuses. I don't even listen. I don't even allow people to call me and speak negativity because I always say, man, okay, man, we could do something about that. And we could change that narrative right now, but we got to stop blaming everybody else. The champion mentality is all in here.
Yeah.
Everything that you want in life, you got it. Me, everything that I want in life, I got everything I need right now. Being everything you want in life, you got everything you need within you right now. That don't mean that it's going to be easy. I never said it was going to be easy. It wasn't easy for me to go from high school, kicked out of high school, kicked out the 8th grade, held back in the 1st grade to becoming a 1st round draft pick of a sport I never played my entire life till I was a senior in high school. 1st round draft pick, Super Bowl champion. Come on now.
Yeah.
If I'm preaching something, you probably should listen.
Nah, yeah, you most definitely are, man. I love it, man. I definitely love it. So what's one piece of advice you give to a young kid right now, even your younger self, who's just starting out and wants to be successful in life?
I would say this, man. Relationships will take you further than any degree ever will. And you reaching out to me and us connecting on LinkedIn is the start in that process. And I try my best to, when I see these LinkedIn messages, I try to respond, especially when these younger kids, younger athletes, I try to connect with them because relationships is what's going to take you to where you want to get to in life. And not only to have those relationships, to build on those relationships, right? Keep in contact with those relationships. See, me, one of the things that I did when I was a younger athlete was I would build these relationships, not knowing what the future held for me, but I would build these relationships. And I would always say to myself, you know, how do I nurse these relationships? And it may just be, hey, if I know I got a professor at my school that's a parent, I say, hey, man, happy Father's Day, right? Or if I know, okay, when I meet people, I say, okay, I try to find out what's important to you. Hey, my son's a baseball player. So I may say, hey, man, how baseball season going for your son, right? And I nurse these relationships year after year after year. So when I finally need something from you, it's not just me coming to say, hey, can you help me with this? I've already got a relationship with you. So even when I got into speaking, right, when I started speaking, the first thing I did was I said, let me make some phone calls. So I started to call people that I had relationships with, say, man, I'm getting into speaking, here's on my website. You know, the first thing they did was, hey, call this person, hey, do this, hey, call that person. So now I'm booking speaking gigs that would never happen if I don't build those relationships. When I got in the medical space, I leveraged the information that I had, the network that I had, to be able to go build a 7-figure medical company, right?
Yeah.
The consulting space, I just lean on relationships. It's all about relationships. It's all about who was in your Rolodex or who can you call? And if I could look at my call log and say, okay, I want to start my own trucking company, for instance. Okay, let me see who I got. Okay, let me call this person because if they got to go, they may not know they may not be able to help me, but they may know somebody that can help me. Right. And so having these degrees and having these I tell my kids all the time, man, you got to build relationships and keep those relationships clean.
Yeah, that's very powerful. That's definitely something I've learned throughout my years and just graduating college, just learning to build relationships and keep those relationships going. But now we're gonna move in. Oh no, you go. Just say what you got to say.
Say you on LinkedIn and you active on LinkedIn and man, I've made so much money off LinkedIn just doing exactly what you do, getting there, just sending out messages, and every message may not get a response. Some of them may be a negative response.
Yeah.
Take 1 or 2 messages for me to reach my goal, so I just keep shooting away, right? And young people don't understand. It's like, man, forget about Instagram, forget about TikTok. I want to go to professionals at, right? I want to go on LinkedIn where I can go on LinkedIn right now and I could get in contact with the owner of Pepsi, right? The CEO of Pepsi, right? He on LinkedIn. Now, he may not respond to the message, but if I reach out to him, Dr. All these CEOs, one of them may respond. I only need one to change.
Now we're gonna move into the fun part of the show. I have 10 questions for you, and you have to answer them in 40 seconds. You think you can do it?
Let's go.
All right. Ready, set, go. First overall pick or Super Bowl ring?
Super Bowl ring.
Fried Chicken Wednesday or Fried Fish Fridays?
Fried Fish Friday.
Favorite song?
Millie by Lil Wayne.
Favorite food?
Oxtail.
Favorite teammate all time?
DeMarcus Ware.
Brady or Peyton Manning?
Peyton.
Call or text?
Text.
Singing or dancing?
Dancing.
Instagram or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
And then 3 words to describe you.
Oh, man. Funny, driven, and outgoing.
Gotcha. You got it. The time went over by a couple of seconds, but you pretty much got it. You pretty much got it on the last one, man. I definitely appreciate you for joining my podcast, sharing a lot, man. I love hearing about your story, you growing up, just ways of being down and then building your way to success, not building excuses in your life. I really love that. And thank you so much for joining my podcast.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. I wish you the best along the way, man. And keep going, bro.
Thank you.